Okay, everyone, we're live and ready to go. Are we on?
Yes.
We're on. Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to call the open session of the Police Services Board to order at 5:05 on August 18th. Could I have a excuse me, I apologize here. Could I have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Hearing none, we'll move on. Preliminary matters. I think that is just our regular hold, right, Madam Secretary? There's nothing there to cover off.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to an approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? And before we do that, I think in close, we did make some changes just for everyone who's watching, and that is 6.2 was just the wording of 6.2 was changed from PSB agreement to PSB arbitrator award. And 6.4 was changed as well from OPSB and OPS arbitration agreement to say instead award. And other than that, I think we're ready to go. So given those items, could I have a motion to approve the agenda of the open session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Second, thank you, Member Brown. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So where we are, 6.1, unfortunately, it looks like there's been a scheduling issue with Mr. George Dixon, who is the chair of the Midland Police Services Board. He was going to join us today to mentor the board on transition and what life is like with, you know, under the Midland Police Services Board versus now under the OPP. And unfortunately, it looks like he couldn't join us. So we'll work at rescheduling him, which means we'll move on to item 6.2, which is the Police Services Board Arbitrator Award. It talks about the pay increases, educational allowances, and severances. Ian, would you like to, Member McSweeney, excuse me, would you like to speak to this item at all? Or does the board have enough information on 6.2 to just accept?
Yeah, it's 6.2 and 6.4. They're sort of.
Yeah, they're really this.
The actual award is under 6.4.
Yeah.
I would move to accept 6.2 and 6.4.
Seconded.
Seconded by Member Rose. Any questions before we approve? Anything that the board would like to discuss? I think it's fairly straightforward, but. Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. Okay. Which means that we would move to 6.3, which is the OPP recruitment press release. I don't think there's any update other than what's in that press release. Any board members like to comment on 6.3? No, hearing none. Could I have a motion to receive, please?
So moved.
Member Rose, second.
Seconded. Brown.
Member Brown, all in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. Item 6.5 is a letter from Member Craker, who is unfortunately unable to be here. I don't think there's any discussion that needs to be there, so can I have a motion to receive that?
So moved.
Yes.
Great. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. And brings us to 6.6, which is Cedar Drive concerns. Just gonna get my ducks in a row here. So we did have some concerns about Cedar Drive. I thought it was important that the board see the email that was sent. I'm not sure, Chief, did you want to add any more context to this, or is it something you'd prefer not to speak to? It's from email from Judy Yak.
Yes, I can add some context to this. The Orangeville Police Service had attended Cedar Drive on 4 separate occasions, July 7th, July 17th, July 24th, and August 7th at various times to do traffic enforcement, speed enforcement. Cedar Drive has a total length of 302 meters. And during the time that we were there, there are no violations, no speeding violations on Cedar Drive. That's all that I have to comment.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, it's Ian. Yes, a question for the chief. I think I saw in the email that there was some indication that some additional signage might serve to slow traffic down. I know it's a school area. I actually went on Google Maps, and I think it's right behind the couple of baseball diamonds that I used to coach baseball at. So I'm pretty familiar with the area, and I gotta say that the times that we would have practice there were a lot of speed demons around. And so I was just wondering whether Chief, you thought that there was sufficient signage in the area reminding drivers that it was a school zone and, to slow down because there are children.
Yes, I'd refer that to the town works department to do an assessment on that area to determine if they're happy with the signage. I've been on that street. It's quite clear. It's a very short street. We did spend a significant amount of time there. And during our time, whether that's in the morning or evening, we did not locate or did not find any persons exceeding the speed limit.
Okay. I've made note of that, Chief. Thank you. And I guess as in my other role as councillor, I will ask Public Works for their input and see what their thoughts are. So I appreciate that. Any other comments from board members on Cedar Drive? No, hearing none. Can I have a motion to receive this document?
So moved.
Member Brown, can I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Member McSweeney, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, thank you, everyone. So item 6.7, this goes back to conversations that we've had as a board. I think Member Brown might have brought this forward initially, but there is a long list of grants that OPS has been diligent in working to secure on behalf of the citizens and ensuring that we receive the support from any kind of outlet, being the province or other organization, to help us with policing costs. And it wasn't lost on the board that we better make sure we have a good understanding of what those grants are. And Chief Klinsky was asked to compile a report. So Chief, maybe I could hand it to you and you could share with us the information that you have.
Thank you. For 2020, we have not received a county court security grant, of $125,000. Our court security and prisoner transportation grant, we've received $266,000, and we are anticipating another amount to equal just over $1 million. We do have a ride grant of $8,049. Our community policing partnership, we've received $120,000. There was a 1,000 officer safe communities grant. That's no longer valid, but that is covered under the community policing partnership. Civil remedies, we've already received $45,000 with regards to that. Criminal Intelligence Service of Ontario, we're still awaiting a grant of approximately $7,000. And in 2020, we did not have a cannabis grant that we could apply for. So in actual fact, the Orangeville Police Service has received to date $439,712. We anticipate with other grants not coming through yet, we anticipate a total of $1,231,627.
So there's still quite a bit to come, Chief.
There's still quite a bit to come. But that is, that's not unusual, and during this time of COVID, it's very understandable.
And Chief, if I may, what's your thoughts on leaving notes behind or communicating with OPP to ensure, or are you feeling that you would download this to the board and the board would communicate with OPP? What's best in terms of transition regarding this?
I know that the OPP will have applied for various grants throughout the process as well. I don't know what's overlapping. I believe the board should ask the OPP, once the transition has taken place, what they can expect based on the precedent set by the Orangeville Police Service.
Okay. Fellow board members, is that something that the board would recommend that I guess I could follow up as chair with Detachment Commander Randall and ask that question? Is that something the board wishes, or would you like to hold for now? What would you think would be best? We could wait till we have our first meeting with them.
I think the first meeting would be satisfactory to wait until then, personally. But.
I was going to say we should ask now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this isn't their first rodeo. I mean, they're
No.
on top of all these grants as well. So yeah.
As long as we have put a placeholder in and can remember to ask them, that's great.
I will. I've worked a new system for myself in terms of ensuring that we have follow-up. So I'll make sure it's there, and we'll hold till then. Okay. Any other questions for the chief on this item? No. Hearing none. Could I have a motion to receive, please? Member Brown. Thank you. I can't see anyone else, so
Got my hand
Member
up.
Rose.
Yes.
Thank you. I can see you now. Everything went blank for a minute there. So all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So this brings us to item 6.8, and this was brought about. It was a query that Member Brown had regarding tickets and different stats that we have with OPS, which I have passed on to Chief Kalinsky. Chief or Deputy Chief, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you. Our traffic enforcement is down. I can tell the board that we're aware of that. We can do better. We've lost our traffic officer, but we will do better. On the good news, as part of our traffic safety strategy, our motor vehicle collisions 2019 to 2020 year to date, our personal or property damage accidents have decreased by 38%, and our personal injury accidents have decreased by 42%. I have asked that we continue providing traffic enforcement. I can refer the board to a media release that we issued on August 14th, where we unfortunately stopped an individual doing 88 kilometers over the posted speed limit on Veterans Way. And unfortunately, he was charged with stunt driving. His vehicle was impounded for 7 days, as well as his driver's license. So we are out there, and I can assure the public that we will continue providing enforcement in a positive manner.
Yeah, I'll turn this over to the board in just a second, but Chief, if I may, just to pick up on the we can do better comment. I appreciate that you're down an individual, and you know, it's difficult as we transition. I'm sympathetic to that, but I'm just curious, by the we can do better, what steps are you putting in place to address it? Could you share from a tactical perspective what it is that you'll be doing?
Yeah, from a tactical perspective, our expectations have been provided to our frontline officers, and we expect them to provide traffic enforcement as part of their daily routine. That message has gone out through Staff Sergeant David McLagan, and we'll continue to work towards a better understanding of our road safety.
Okay. Just out of curiosity too, Chief, I have heard, and I did not provide you with this as a brief, but I do want to ask the question if I could. Has there been any direction not to give tickets to citizens while the transition is on, or has that ever come up, or is it just a vicious rumor that's been there?
That has never been a thought in our process whatsoever. It's business as usual. Part of what we do has to be traffic enforcement, and that expectation has been relayed to our staff.
Candidly and transparently, I thought you would say that. I just I have had discussions with folks who have thought that was the case, and so I just wanted to ask you that leading question. We didn't speak about it ahead of time, but I figured that would be what your response would be. So thank you for that. Board members, did you have any questions for Chief Kalinsky or Deputy Chief Guilfoyle on this file?
None, thank you.
All I can say is I have had an increase in, I guess, social media contact and email contact about enforcement in general. It's just noticeable to me. And then the POA report came through. So I think I'm glad to hear what the chief has said. I think we need to get back to the levels that we were at before, because it's all about safe roads, and appreciate what the chief has told us today. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had a question for the chief.
Yes, please.
Chief, the officer that we lost, the traffic officer, that was Officer Latimer?
Correct.
That's a surprise. That's a surprise to me. When did that happen?
Officer Latimer is filling in vacancies on the platoon so we can ensure our proper staffing levels are maintained.
I see. So he's still on the force. He's just reassigned from traffic.
Correct.
And I know that he had a special car that had forward and rear facing radar and the like. So is that car just not being put out on a shift, or pending his return, or what's the status?
That vehicle goes out on general patrol each and every shift. When Officer Latimer is working, that's his car.
I see. So it's just that he's not on the normal traffic duty.
He's not on traffic focus. He's on frontline focus, and he will do traffic when he's available to do that, based on call volumes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
No.
Board members? None. Chief, I have one last question for you, and it feels not leading towards you, but I feel like by asking it, I'm going to unveil a hand. But there is typically streets that, as a counselor, that I would hear frequently from, and I'm sure you know what all those streets are. You know, the main ones downtown, Zina, etc. There's the West End, Beeline, Spencer, Alder, even Riddell. I've heard issues as of late, and I'm just curious. I understand that there would be decisions that you would have to make from an operational sense and moving people around and whatnot. But I guess my hope is those main arteries that we consistently hear on, if we could have the police on them. Diane Drive would be another one that comes to mind. I don't know, Member Brown, you probably get quite a few queries as well if you had any hot spots, but if we could have a presence on those roads as we move towards suspendment, I think I'd be grateful, and I know the citizens would be as well.
I'd be grateful as well, and that's the direction that they receive from me.
Okay, thank you. Just out of curiosity, Member Brown, do you have any other ones that you'd like to add to that kind of truncated list that I just gave? Are you?
No, I had quite a vociferous exchange with somebody about Drew Brown Boulevard. You know, to the point where the individual said that there's going to be a child killed and there'll be blood on the mayor's hands. So, you know, I think the chief is under pressure with respect to staffing now, as people have, some officers have left the force. You know, I've heard comment on Credit Creek. I think, you know, just the rotation of traffic enforcement evenly throughout the town is what is required, and the unfortunate circumstances right now are that staffing is down. So I think it's important, but it's in the chief's hands to direct his staff accordingly. So I'll have to leave it at that.
Yeah, all we can do is request, and to Member Brown's comments about the Veterans Way subdivision, Chief Klinsky, if you could, there has been quite a few comments about Veterans Way itself, and you'd mentioned the incident that you caught, but also within that subdivision, just ensuring that there is some sort of presence would be grateful if you're able to spare the resources.
We will.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I know that we're not interfering with the day-to-day operations of the police service, but
we are not. We're suggesting.
But I do have a question for the chief, just in general terms. Do we ever just park cars by roadsides as a deterrent that are unmanned, or is that not our practice?
No, we have used that strategy in the past, and we may very well use that again. That might be a direction that I provide Staff Sergeant McLagan with.
I know on Veterans Way, certainly I always, when I'm cresting that hill, look for the car in its usual spot by that power station or whatever it is. So I think it does operate as a pretty good deterrent.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Member Rose.
Was there a resident question just now? Did something came up on my screen, and I don't know who's manning the boards wherever. Was there a question?
So we wouldn't typically take that until question period, but was it relevant to this discussion?
So maybe if that person could wait until we get to that item.
I believe it was Councillor Sherwood who's on the line was suggesting Marshall Crescent has got some speeding issues as well. So I think the general consensus is, when traffic enforcement gets moved around town, that it's the best. In all areas of town need a touch once in a while on traffic enforcement.
Yeah, agreed.
Just to.
Okay, we have a motion to receive this document.
So moved.
Member Rose, Member Brown, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to move to item 6.1, which is the reopening of the Orangeville Police Station and an update from Chief Klinsky. So this is post-COVID and opening the doors.
6.9.
We just did 6.9, which is a criminal records checks. This is 6.1 on my list, unless something has changed that I've messed up. Do you have a different number, Member Rose?
Just looking at my notes. That's okay.
Okay. So 6.1, Chief Klinsky.
Thank you very much. The Orangeville Police Service reopened their facilities on Tuesday, August 4th. We're back to regular opening. However, we employ the COVID model, whereby we have staff members directing the flow of traffic if and when necessary. Everyone coming into the Orangeville Police Service is expected to wear a mask. If they don't have one, we'll supply one. We have our 6 feet markers in place in our front lobby, and we can extend that out into the parking lot. We have a plexiglass barrier at the front counter. We have a sanitizer station, and we are open Monday to Fridays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We only accept debit and credit card. We do not accept cash as payment. And we're averaging approximately a dozen people a day. We did not receive the overwhelming attendance we had originally expected. We have put it out on social media. People seem to be aware of our opening, and business as usual.
Member Rose, you were right. My apologies. I did cause that. So sorry. That was supposed to be 6.9, the criminal records checks. But Chief, I think you've covered off the reopening, and then maybe we can talk about the specifics of the criminal records checks. So I'm sorry, Member Rose. You were correct, and I was not. So that's the reopening piece, and I think you've touched on, Chief, a little bit about payments as well. Since I have created a kerfuffle here, any further questions? We'll go back to 6.9 because I think there is specific things we want to get through. But any further questions on the reopening of the police station on item 6.1 for the Chief, knowing that we're going to go back to criminal records checks? Okay, so hearing none, can I have a motion to receive 6.1?
So moved.
Member Rose? I can only see Member Rose right now for some reason. Everybody else has gone blank, but Member McSweeney or Member Brown, can you second?
I'll second, Chair Taylor. It's Brown.
Thank you, Member Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, and so my apologies, everyone. I got a little anxious there as our host today. So 6.9 is the criminal records checks. And this came about, I did get a call from a member of our community who wanted to get a criminal record check, and then there was concern about how they would get that criminal record check, considering that the police station was closed down. So I've asked the Chief to speak to this in this meeting. There was candidly some confusion about some other forces being open and conducting police records checks and OPS being closed. And I just offer that as a background, and perhaps the Chief can help us all to understand what was going on with criminal records checks.
Yes, thank you. We closed our doors during the COVID period, as did everyone else. There are some services that offer electronic solution to criminal record check application. Unfortunately, the Orangeville Police Service, we have explored that opportunity. It was on our list for future development, but hasn't taken place. I received one bitter complaint from an individual who was actually looking for a vulnerable record check, which means that included fingerprints. Now, there's no police service that can do that electronically. You physically have to come in and provide your fingerprints. That wasn't available to anyone in the province until recently. We'd be happy to entertain those people that need that type of a check. This individual wasn't pleased with that. I even offered personal service, and that was declined. And checking on that individual as late as this morning at 9:37, that person has never attended, and due to the displeasure that I received, I haven't further reached out to that person.
Chief, so I'm sorry, Member Brown, did you have a question first? Go ahead.
No, but it's hard for me to sometimes understand the public's demeanor in when we're in the middle of this COVID situation, and people are, I guess, a lot of people are having difficulties, and there's maybe some mental health issues. I don't know, but Chief Kalinsky explained the situation clearly there, but some people just want to get nasty, and it's unfortunate. And that individual, I think, went offline, way beyond what they should have in their correspondence. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Everybody needs to be kind and try and just understand the situation and operationally what's going on, both at the town and at the police station. So,
Thank you, Member Brown. Any other further comments from board members on this topic?
No.
No. I just had one, and Chief, I think the big revelation there, and the kind of the key to the story is that because of the vulnerable nature of that records check, it's different from someone like myself who would come in and want to get a records check because I'm going to be on a volunteer committee or whatnot. This is a vulnerable records check, which means you need those physical fingerprints. And the reason that you couldn't give the physical fingerprints is because the Premier had ordered the building closed. And I just wanted to make that point and hear you say yes to that comment if I could. That's the reason, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So not much that our police force could do in the instance until the Tuesday that they were given the go-ahead to reopen.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Can I have a motion to receive this item? Member Brown? Member Rose? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. And Member Rose, my apologies again. You were right on that. So now I'm almost gun shy to move on to item 7. Hopefully that's all right with you. So we're going to pass any motions developed in closed session, and by my count, there isn't any. We have 2 large items that can't be shared with the public just yet because the board didn't finish them. If we could, we'll go back into closed session. If not, we will set up a special meeting to cover off those items. But I don't believe there's any items here to pass that were done in closed session. Board members all in line with that?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So seeing that that's the case, we will move on to item 8. And if I may, item 8.1 and 8.3 were sent out as part of your board package. Item 8.2 came earlier this morning, and my apologies to board members for the late appearance of that. But we have all of the meeting minutes. If we were able to approve them today, this would be quite an accomplishment for our board as we've gone through a bit of a transition. We would be completely up to date and be able to send these to council. So I wonder if we do 8.1 and 8.3 separately and approve them together. And if people wanted to talk further about 8.2 because they didn't have a chance or take it out, I would understand that. What's the wishes of the board on those 3 items, 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3? Do you want to do them together, or do you want to?
Yes. I'll motion to approve all 3.
All 3?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I would love to say yes to that, but I just have a comment. So 8.1, the March 17th minutes. And this, Carrie, you and I can work this offline, but this is shown as a regular PSB meeting, but it looks like there's only public session minutes, so I don't know where the in-cameras are.
Okay, that was in the file sent to me from Tracy, so I can maybe reach out to her and see if there are any in-camera minutes. Okay,
and there are some formatting issues. I think they think these minutes should be reformatted as we've reformatted the previous ones that we approved, the amended versions that we approved last.
For the March minutes?
Mr. Chair, the March 17th minutes should be reformatted so that we need that consistency. So if members of the board are fine, I don't really have a problem with the content, but are fine with approving the March 17th minutes, which are the public session minutes. We'll have to bring the in-camera minutes, if there are any, back before the board for consideration and approval. But at least if you're fine approving the 8.1 minutes today, subject to reformatting and other changes that I can work with Carrie on, then we could probably approve that one today.
Board members, how do you feel about subject to reformatting on March 17th?
It's fine with me.
Sure.
Member Brown? Okay, so I think given that, it would bring us back to Member Brown's motion of approving 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I had it backwards. I think what we've got is the March 17th in camera minutes. So my question for Carrie to follow up on is, where are the public session minutes?
Okay.
Why don't, so given that, board members, it sounds like there's a little bit more work to do with 8.1. It's actually, the exciting piece to this is if we were able to get through 8.2 and 8.3, we would be up to date for the most part, other than that was when we went into transition, right around COVID time and whatnot, and some new members coming on to as part of our group. So if maybe what we do is we put the motion forward of approving 8.2 and 8.3, if Member Brown would so move, and we'll push 8.1 to either our special meeting that we may have to have or the next board meeting.
Sure.
And sorry, I hate to be a pain, Mr. Chair, but one other point that I wanted to make on 8.3 is, you recall 8.3 are the minutes of the special meeting that we convened in order to approve some previous minutes. In those previous minutes, Carrie, the June 16th minutes made a reference to minutes of May 25th. I'd raised this question with you in an email. I don't know, I mean, I don't know what that is. I can't find a March 25th or a May 25th meeting in my notes. So I just, with that is the other outstanding little piece of little item that needs to be nailed down before those minutes get posted. But I think that's a posting item than anything else.
So
Okay,
Member
I'll look
McSweeney,
into that date.
yeah, May 25th, I don't have anything in my calendar. We actually had, there was a council meeting that night, but there was not a PSB.
No,
So
that was a Monday night.
Could be a typo. And anyway, we don't need to deal, we can deal, Carrie and I can deal with it offline. And if it's a typo and it needs to either be eliminated or a different date put in, then I think the approval that we did on August 6th will apply, and we can go ahead and approve the August 6th minutes as they stand.
Okay, so you, just to summarize then, Member McSweeney, you would be fine with approving 8.2 and 8.3 and seconding the motion of Member Brown?
Affirmative.
Great. Okay, so all in favor of approving 8.2 and 8.3, Brown and McSweeney?
Yes.
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 Okay, and we will bring back 8.1 at a later date. And that is as current as we've been able to be in the last few months. So I'm quite pleased with that, and congratulations to board members. So that brings us on to item 9, which is the financial statements. And what we've done, ladies and gentlemen, is we've asked Nandini to prepare them and not to come. And if there was questions, we could follow up with her, and just being considerate of her time. Does any board members have questions that we would like to have the treasurer speak to, or the chief or deputy speak to, regarding where we are currently?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Yes, Member Rose.
We've gone to great lengths to decide what needs to be done with all the uniforms, guns, and all the rest of it. My question is there anything in the remaining part of the 2020 budget, commitments that we've made, payments that need to be paid out, expenses that must be honoured by the September the 30th deadline? I'm wondering if there are things there that we should be dealing with and getting sorted out before that date.
Chief, are you?
I think he's muted. Here we go.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This budget, which was printed for the end of July 31st, we're approximately 5% under budget. I anticipate a positive variance going along, and I know that by September 30th, year to date, we will be well under budget.
Okay. Any other further questions, board members? No. I think given the fact that we're under budget, I mean, it's progressing well. If I had any concerns from a financial standpoint, it would be understanding what our costs are at disbandment. I wonder, Ms. McKinney, did you want to briefly speak to that here, just to provide some guidance for everyone, or how did you feel?
Through the chair, 2 points, I guess. To build on the comments there, if there's anything outstanding following September 30th, the town would be in a position to support and making sure that that gets closed off, if that's the base of the question. Nothing will be left undone. And then overarchingly, as it relates to disbandment and costs, we won't be able to finalize the details until we have the complete list from the OPP as to the officers and civilians who have accepted offers. And additionally, we have received clarity from our legal counsel today that the award from earlier in August needs to be put back into a collective agreement format and then costed from there. So there are some steps that need to be taken that would inform that process as well.
Yeah. So net, if you're someone from the public watching this or writing for the media, we're just not in a position to be able to give any guidance on what those numbers are yet. The process is still ongoing, and as soon as it is, we will have a very transparent report to the citizens as to what those amounts are. But it's going to take a bit more time. Yeah, and I think that's just due process and shouldn't be of concern to anyone. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. McKinney. So anything further, board members, on the financials?
No, thank you.
No. Okay. Could I have a motion to receive the financials, please?
So moved.
Member Rose, Member Brown, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Member McSweeney, I just didn't hear you. Are you still with us? Are you good?
Yes. Sorry,
Yes.
I was on mute. I said yes.
Thank you. Okay, so remuneration claim form submissions from PSB board members.
Motion to
9.2.
receive.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. That brings us to item 10, question period. Dan, is there anyone on the line from the public that would like to ask a question?
Through the chair, we do have Councillor Sherwood, as well as, I'm not sure if they're still here. We did have a member of the public, but I don't believe they're with us anymore in the meeting.
Okay. So Councillor Sherwood, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I see that in your agenda, the operating budget has been included, but I have an actual question regarding the capital budget. Previous council meeting, we were given a list of expenses that have already taken place for the capital budget. And one of my questions was that there was a budgeted amount for a phone system upgrade for 2020 of $25,000, and I see the cost has been $46,935, so almost double the budget amount. But what I'm questioning is, are these phone system upgrades something that are going to be usable by OPP, or is this upgrade going to be defunctional as of October 1st? And why such a difference in the cost?
Chief Klinsky or Ms. McKinney, would you like to speak to that? I don't mean to put either of you on the spot. If not, we will defer and get the answer from our treasurer. So please don't feel like I'm putting you on the spot if you'd rather not speak to it. Yes, Ms. McKinney.
Through the chair, I mean, I'd like to give the chief first opportunity, but if he'd like, I could answer it.
Okay, please.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so those upgrades, Councillor, were required as part of the 911 and operating systems of the police station. The equipment is all reusable and will be transferred to the town as part of the town's equipment, as part of our voice upgrades. And the additional notes that I had from Jason previously were that the nature of those accounts is they're a little bit older, so they roll up to a set of upgrades that needed to happen at the OPS. And so that line looks over, but overarchingly the various upgrades are under. And if you want to bear with me for say 30 seconds, I'm confident I could get my notes on that if that was helpful.
Certainly.
Yeah, that's fabulous, Mr. Chair. I figured there must have been a good explanation, and I'm definitely glad to hear that this is something that can easily transition and still be used, and not money spent that is going to go away in a few months. So that's really good to hear. Thank you for answering that question. Very good.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Board members, I wonder, we're still in the middle of, well, maybe we'll finish off question period, and then I think we should just take an administrative break here for a quick second and establish what we're going to do. Is there any further questions, Dan?
Through the chair, there's nobody on the line. However, we did have an individual who had emailed yourself and myself earlier in the day here, and we had indicated our usual question period time is at 6 o'clock, so we are a little bit early tonight as well.
I see.
So they may be joining here in 10 minutes or so.
Okay, perfect. So board members, if we could take a brief segue. It is 8 minutes to 6. I feel like we're going to get through the agenda, but it will leave us in a spot where one of our members, we'd still have quorum, but I feel like we would want to have Member McSweeney available. Mm-hmm. Could we talk about a special meeting to finish off our closed session? Because it doesn't look like we're going to get that today. And potentially the 5 of us, being Carrie, we could agree on a date and a time and go from there. Okay. Could we all just quickly check our schedules? And I think sooner rather than later would be ideal. Potentially early next week. I think Monday is a council meeting, but how would everybody feel about Tuesday night at, say, 5 o'clock, the 25th?
I'm okay with that.
Yes, that would be fine with me.
Fine with me as well.
Okay, and Carrie, would that work for your schedule?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, great. So let's do that. Sorry, everyone, just making sure I'm voting. And the idea there, again, will be it'll be a special meeting, and it's to cover off 2 items on our closed, which we will then rise and report on in open. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Dan, I guess what I'll do is I'll come back to question period again, post 6 o'clock. So it's 6 minutes too. So I'm going to leave question period with the intention to come back to it. And number 11 on our agenda is presentations, of which we have none. Number 12 on our agenda is delegations, of which we have none. And 13 is correspondence, of which we have none. So why don't we move into 14, which is reports, and we'll move to 14.1 and see where we can get through on these items prior to 6 o'clock. So 14.1, Chief Klinsky, if you could speak to that.
Chief Klinsky is on mute.
Is he? Okay.
Thank you. I want to report to the board that part-time Special Constable Cody Fry has resigned effective August 21st to take a full-time constable position with the Halton Regional Police Service. We wish him well.
We wish Mr. Fry well in his new role. That's exciting. Okay, any questions, board members?
None, thank you.
None. Given it's a report, I don't think we need to receive. We just move on. We can receive all the reports at the end. So 14.2, Chief Kalinsky, transfer of dispatch services.
Thank you. I want to update the board that as of 9 o'clock this morning, the Shelburne Police Service is no longer receiving communications from Orangeville Police. They've transferred their communications to another police service. The process went without issue.
That's great. Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the board for the Chief on items 14.2? No, hearing none. Chief, 14.3, report.
Thank you. Each year, the Orangeville Police Service, in conjunction with our auxiliary officers, conduct a food drive and toy drive during the Christmas season. This is done on behalf of the Salvation Army and the Orangeville Food Bank. Donations continue to accumulate each year after the toys, the money, and food have already been distributed. I'm asking the board to consider to evenly distribute the funds that we have in excess through our Treasury Department. It's $21,115.97. My recommendation would be that both the Salvation Army and the Orangeville Food Bank would receive half of that total amount. Half of that total amount would be $10,557.98.
Wow, that's amazing.
Very good.
That is incredible. Thank you, Chief. Board members, any comments on that?
No. Well done.
Yeah, well done. I'll make a motion to receive 14.1, 2, and 3.
So moved.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. Member McSweeney, that went pretty quick. Did you want to comment on that?
No, I didn't. I was just wondering if the chief was asking us for approval as well as just accepting the report.
Yes, I'm asking for approval to direct Treasury Department to disseminate those funds to both the Orangeville Food Bank and the Salvation Army.
So I'm happy to make that motion.
Yeah, I think it ran past us all. We're there. We've done it. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Chief, thank you very much for that. It's exceptional.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are going to move on to, we still have 2 minutes, so we'll move on to new business. Does anyone on the board or Chief Deputy Ms. McKinney have any new business? No, seeing none. It's kind of an awkward one, right? Because typically we would cover most of the items throughout the rest of the agenda, so I wouldn't imagine we'd have any. So the only other thing I can do short of adjourning is go back to you, Dan. It is 5:58. We can wait for 2 minutes or we can take some guidance from you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe the member of the public has joined here. We have had a phone number join the call here, so we can reach out and see if we have that member for their question.
Certainly. And Councillor Sherwood, you still have your hand up, so I'm not sure if you have anything either, but we'll come to you after we're done with the member of the public. So if the citizen could bring forward with your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I really have less of a question and more of a comment.
Could you, I'm sorry, could you state your name?
Yes, it's Dorothy Peterson.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
And I have less of a question and more of a comment in relation to what Chief Kalinsky alluded to earlier in the session. Chief Kalinsky.
Is that pertaining to records checks, Ms. Peterson?
That was pertaining to the records checks, yes it was. And I was the person in question who had been trying to get a police record check done through the Orangeville Police Services since March of this year. Chief Kalinsky said that I was, because of the displeasure that he received from me, he had not reached out to me again. And he did indicate as well, I think he described me as being, I think the word was something like irate or something along that level. And I just want to stress that at no time was I rude, disrespectful, or unreasonable with Chief Kalinsky. However, I do take exception to how he has misrepresented the events at this meeting. Chief Kalinsky said that vulnerable persons checks require fingerprinting. And I just want to clarify that I've had probably 5 or more vulnerable persons checks done at the Orangeville Police Services. And at no time ever have I been asked to do fingerprints. I think that's important to clarify that, because without that clarification, people on the board have received a complete distorted event and what was actually taking place here.
Chief or Deputy, would you be able to provide any guidance on just a little bit more on fingerprints? Is there any more information to share, or do you think we've talked this through?
I would like to offer any assistance that we can render to enable anyone to get a fingerprint check done for a vulnerable record check. They are required to get fingerprints, and we will do everything we can in order to ensure that people are satisfied with our service.
Is that, Chief, just for our understanding, is that a new requirement on fingerprinting? Because the citizen had said, Ms. Peterson had said that she hadn't had to do that in the past, and she's done them a few times. Is that a new requirement with fingerprinting, or?
No, it's not. That's a requirement, and I know that Mrs. Peterson had her fingerprint or had the vulnerable record check completed on the 11th of January 2014 and the 3rd of January 2017. And again, if I can be of any service, we'd be happy to accommodate any requests for her.
And Chief, if I may, just as I want to understand, was that on those previous 2 applications, was there a fingerprint given?
I don't have that indication here, but that is a requirement, yes.
It's a requirement, okay. And it's a long-standing requirement?
Ever since I've been here.
Okay, understood. Ms. Peterson, did you have anything further that you'd like to share, or?
Yes, I'll just clarify, there was no fingerprinting done on any of the previous applications, but when I spoke to Chief Kalinsky's deputy about this, she also thought that fingerprinting was necessary for vulnerable sector checks at first. And when I questioned her on that and said I'd had so many vulnerable sector checks done previously and I'd never been fingerprinted, and she said, oh, well, you must be one of the lucky ones then, because if you have a name and a date of birth that is close to someone else who has made application, then you do have to get fingerprinted. And that would make sense to me. But I have never been fingerprinted.
Okay. I'm not sure where we can go with this here. It feels like we're going to have.
Fine.
Yeah,
we're I just wanted to clarify, because without that clarification, I really do feel that there was a complete misrepresentation of what actually transpired in my attempt to get the vulnerable sector check.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly sorry that you felt that way, Ms. Peterson, and I feel like the chief and the deputy have given their best information that they can at this time. So I think we'll leave it there.
I've just given mine as well, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate. Thank you very much.
You certainly did, and I'm happy to chat with you further.
That's fine. Thank you very much for letting me participate. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Dan, is there anyone further on the line? I see Councillor Sherwood has taken her hand down, so I think we might.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do not see anybody else currently on the line.
Thank you. Okay, so board members, that would mean that we are on to item 16, which is Member Brown's favorite time, adjournment. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move it if he's not there.
Thank you, Member Rose. It looks like we've lost Member McSweeney, which he let us know he was going to do. And Member Brown, are you still with us? I see him there, but maybe he's on mute. So I will second it. All in favor of adjourning?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney.
Okay.